Welcome back to the TitleTown Rundown podcast here on YouTube. My name is Joey Matroni. He is Kyler Quelch. Back to be bringing you everything in the world of Boston sports here on the TitleTown Rundown. And as we get it started here on this Wednesday, June 3rd, we'll go to the NFL for the first time in a while because we've got some news to talk about. We talked about schedules a couple weeks back, but the June 1st date, was a date that so many Patriots fans were keeping an eye on with all the rumors surrounding A.J. Brown, and the deal is now done. A.J. Brown is officially a Patriot as of Monday. He is already in Foxborough at the start of training camp at OTAs, and they'll start they'll start mandatory minicamp, I should say, on June 9th. And let's break down how that trade went down for the Patriots. They got A.J. Brown in exchange for a 2028 first round pick and the better of their fifth round picks in 2027.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, there we go. I wanted to make sure I had that exactly right. Thank you, Kyler. And as most Patriots fans, I'm sure, know, they parted ways with Stephon Diggs at the end of last season, and AJ Brown was kind of going to be that shoe-in number one wide receiver if they were going to be able to get the deal done. And here they are. They've got the deal done, and they've got their top guy at receiver. Kyler, I know you're very familiar with AJ Brown, watching him play for the Eagles in these past years. And so you know the kind of impact that he's going to immediately make on this Patriots team.
Oh, as a Giants fan, I love it. It allows for our secondary to not feel the weakness in that department, but we'll get to that later. But in all seriousness, though, I love this for the Patriots. This is a win now move. Like John Henry, take notes about how Robert Kraft does his business because he knows how to make money, but he realizes that the fans are also an important part of the experience, right? And I think that you saw that in the hiring of Mike Vrabel and now bringing in a top 10 wide receiver, maybe even top five if you want to argue it. Um, no, I'm not exactly sure where the rankings are now, given how a lot of guys are getting older and whatnot, but certainly
Mm-hmm.
he's up there. He's a bona fide number one. You finally get that number one. You signed Romeo Dobbs in the offseason. Like, you guys are ready to rock and roll. Like, this is Super Bowl or bust type stuff. You know what I mean? And, you know, I just think, like I said, I really emphasize the ownership part of this because they got so close to the Super Bowl on like an easy schedule. And we looked at their schedule a couple of weeks ago, like you said, Joey, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a gauntlet. And I think you and I both said they need a number one receiver. We hope these rumors are true because they need a number one receiver to compete with all of these playoff worthy teams. And they did that. So credit to them for doing that. And I'm actually excited to talk about this because usually we're talking about the Red Sox and how bad things are. This is an awesome move. And this is something the Patriots don't do very often. It reminds me of Randy Moss back
Mm-hmm.
in the day, but they didn't even have to give up that much draft capital to get him.
Yeah, and that's not even to say that we're comparing AJ Brown to a guy like Randy Moss because you really can't do that at this juncture. But it is kind of like the star-studded move that you said you don't see from the Patriots all the time. But I think you hit the nail on the head in the fact that it is a win now move. You made it to the Super Bowl. You got outplayed by Seattle pretty much in all facets of the game, but you saw Drake May play at an MVP level for the majority of last season, and I think that adding a number one receiver that can slot into the um, veteran guy that Stephon Diggs was a year ago, um, now being AJ Brown, is a very positive thing. He's got a previous relationship with Mike Vrabel from his time in Tennessee, and you could just see in the first couple days of AJ Brown at training camp, how excited he is to be a part of the Patriots. He grew up a fan of the Patriots. He posted a couple pictures on social media of him in a Tom Brady jersey when he was a kid. So you can see that this means a lot to him, being able to be a part of the storied franchise that the New England Patriots are. And I hope that this brings his play to an all pro level, as we've seen. We're looking into some of the stats. In 6 of the 7 seasons that AJ Brown has played, he has over 1,000 yards. Obviously, there was some controversy surrounding him and Jalen Hurts towards the end of his Eagles tenure, especially a couple seasons ago when he was reading the self help book on the sideline. But we don't have to get into all of that directly. But I think the play on the field kind of says what it kind of does the talking for AJ Brown. Like I said, 1,000 yards in 6 of his 7 seasons so far in the NFL, and he's got at least 7 touchdowns in each of his last 4 seasons. So,
And that's minimum. So like I honestly think too, Joey, when you talk about where the kind of like where it starts for him, like they've brought in guys like Antonio Brown or other guys before who are kind of cocky or arrogant, but I think you see that he really wants to be in New England. He really asked to kind of be in New England, and they granted it to him because New England gave him a good trade package. The Eagles, that is, and
mhm,
so I actually think this is really going to help him. And Josh McDaniels with QBs and receivers, he's like the QB and receiver whisperer. He's like he, with Moss, Welker, Marshall, like a lot of these guys who are really good, who have been good receivers when we were growing up. They all had over 1,000 yard seasons, and Welker and
mhm.
Moss did that in the same season together, fighting for those reps. So I think like you're gonna see his numbers go up again because I think they also started to shift away from the passing offense a little bit
Mhm.
in Philadelphia. So
Oh, especially in Philadelphia, after they got Saquon Barkley from your New York Giants. But uh, looking at AJ Brown specifically on the offensive side, I'm really excited to see how this dynamic between him and Drake May works. Um, Again, I keep bringing up Stephon Diggs because he was the major name in the receiving core last year for the Patriots. But he played a different style of receiver than he has in the past, coming off of his ACL injury, doing a lot with his speed and working across the middle of the field. Whereas AJ Brown is going to be more of your vertical threat and can go up and get a ball whenever you need him to get it. And you saw the emergence of what a great deep ball thrower Drake May is becoming over the last season. So I think that that could mesh really well together. And what that does come down to now, looking at the receiving core, you mentioned Romeo Dobbs earlier, but the odd man out could end up being Kayshawn Booty because he's the closest guy in terms of play style to AJ Brown. He could be the odd man out, and maybe you see a trade down the road in the offseason of Kayshawn Booty to make sure that he can get his reps somewhere else, and maybe the Patriots will be able to get a decent pick back for him in the later rounds of the draft.
yeah, they have a lot of depth. I mean, I was picking on the Giants earlier, and we'll get to that eventually. Trust me, because that receiver room is ridiculous in terms of the number of people in it. But in all seriousness, what I was going to say is what I really like about this group is that they're deep. They have guys like AJ Brown, Romeo Dobbs, Pop Douglas, Mac Hollins. Like they have a bunch of options. Booty, but he's probably going to get moved. But like you have that depth, and you didn't have that before, and you really haven't had that a lot. And I think that really elevates your quarterback or says to your quarterback, hey, we're trying to do everything we can to help you win.
Yeah, and I mean, it is different in what you're saying, looking at the different eras of Patriots football. This Drake May era and Mike Vrabel era is a new era, different from the Belichick and Brady era, where Brady is the greatest of all time, and he could really get it done with whoever he had lined up at receiver. So you didn't really need to have the star wide receiver. Obviously, he had time with Randy Moss, like you mentioned earlier, but Brady was so good for so long that he could get it done with whoever you had lined up at receiver. Whereas now you're looking at doing your best in terms of ownership and the coaching staff. They prioritized going out and getting a number one receiver for May, and AJ Brown is very excited to be playing that role.
Another thing I really want to point out, Joey, that I think is important, not to interrupt you from whatever you want to say, but I think that the the importance of this too is the new era of football. Like Belichick used to be able to take anybody and kind of elevate them when he was in his good years, and same with Brady. Brady's very good at doing that on the offensive side. Belichick was good at doing that on the defensive side, and you don't see as much of that anymore. You see having skill positions or premium positions like corner, receiver, quarterback, coach, like kind of be those core positions where you have to get really good at, like in order to compete. And they have
Mhm.
Christian Gonzalez, they have AJ Brown, they have Drake May, they have Mike Vrabel. That's kind of a different way of approaching it. And I actually give props to ownership again for being willing to shift the way that they do things because the times are changing, right? Like Josh Allen in Buffalo, right? Or you look at other teams, even Kansas City, and how they had those types of players, and you're starting to struggle more. And
Yeah,
even though you've won so many Super Bowls, Kraft says, hey, we are not at the standard that we would like to be to and that our fans would like us to be to. We need to change the way we think about constructing our team.
yeah, and I think that you mentioned Josh Allen earlier. The Bills did for the downward slope of the Patriots post Brady kind of like take control of the AFC East for a good chunk of time. And we mentioned during the schedule breakdown that we had that the Patriots have struggled with Miami in years past, and they kind of had some battles in the down years of the Patriots. But now, after the success that was last year, getting to the Super Bowl, finishing the year with a 14-3 regular season record, the expectation for the Patriots now is to continue to compete to win that division, and they're going to be going up against um, Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills a lot at the top of that division for years to come.
Actually, I'm looking forward to it, Joey. I want to grab my bowl of chili and my bowl of popcorn and watch these games. Like
Yeah.
it's exciting me again. Like there was just a while where it wasn't really exciting me, and there was only one team dominating. It was either the Patriots or the Bills, and everybody else was just horrible. Like I don't even want to know Brady's record against the AFC East. Like we don't need to pull those stats up. It's ridiculous. I think he's like the winningest quarterback in the AFC East. But no, I think it's just kind of fun from a casual fan perspective. I like watching all NFL games. Like I'll watch anything. I've said that before, and all of that, and so I'm kind of interested to kind of see where it goes, and I'm interested to watch the Patriots fans go nuts when they lose a game that they shouldn't. Uh, it's just one
Well,
game. It's
we'll
just
see if
one
that.
game. You know.
And I think what that honestly comes down to is that they that you have to realize that this schedule is more difficult than the one that you had last year, so you don't know how everything's gonna directly translate on the field. I believe when we were looking at it, we have the sixth most difficult schedule of the NFL this year, and the record might look a little bit different at the end of the year. But if they can make it to the playoffs, they definitely do have the skills to the experience now and the skill players to make a deep run. And I think that again is going to be the expectation moving down the road
You have to
for the
win your
Patriots.
division. You have to win or win your divisional games, I mean, not division, but you have to win your divisional games.
Hmm.
Like you have to win those Jets games. You have to win those Dolphins games. You have to split with Buffalo. You can let Buffalo have a game. Don't let them sweep you. You know, like
Yeah.
and you have to look at it that way because you're playing the Broncos. You're playing week one. They're playing the Seahawks again,
Yeah.
who I don't even know if they're going to make it to the Super Bowl again with their divisional foes in the Rams. But
Well, that's actually a perfect segue into our next topic of discussion within the NFL. We talked about how June 1st had been synonymous with Patriots fans for the majority of the offseason. But for a moment there, the Rams stole headlines on Monday, June 1st, before the A.J. Brown move. They made a trade for um, Myles Garrett of the Cleveland Browns. So he has now joined a already very stellar Rams defense. And as you said, Kyler, I think this the two regular season Rams and Seahawks games are going to be must watch TV.
they
And then I
already
wouldn't.
were last year.
I exactly, and they've only gotten better with the reigning defensive player of the year joining an already strong defense.
Yeah, literally rookie of the year 2 years ago and draft picks for the
Yes.
defensive player of the year. And
Mm-hmm.
potential defensive beast coming out of retirement. Uh, those rumors have not been sparked. I thought I'd bring it up because I think it's pretty interesting. Um, I actually could see that happening. And the way McVay talked about it, he didn't deny it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like when Gronk came out of retirement, except Gronk would just say it.
Mm-hmm.
Or Brady too. Those guys would just do it. This is just a lot of oh yeah, but the way you look at it, apparently he likes Myles Garrett. I really don't after the helmet incident a few years ago, but
That
he's a
being
good player.
that being
Um,
Aaron Donald possibly rejoining the Rams is what you were referring to there, correct?
yeah, and or sorry, Donald. Yeah, I was referring to Aaron Donald. Yeah, and but Myles Garrett in himself though, I don't love his personality. I think he's kind of a tool, but he
the
is scary. And the thought of those
yeah,
two
yeah.
guys on the D line together would be an absolute disaster for offenses.
What do you think of Miles Garrett off the field aside? The player and the talent is undeniable. I mean, he broke the sack record a year ago and also dominated the Patriots in the game that Cleveland ultimately lost because Garrett had no help. But he did have 4 or 5 sacks in the game against um, the Patriots. And
It's a win-win. It is a
Drake
win-win.
Drake May really had nothing he could do about it. So yeah, and looking at the trade, it's a there's a benefit to both sides. So obviously on the Rams side, you're getting the reigning defensive player of the year in Myles Garrett, who's going to be a force off the edge all season, and then on the Cleveland side, you're getting a former rookie of the year in Jared Verse, a first round pick in 2027, a second round pick in 2028, and a third round pick in 2029. And again, this now firmly puts the uh, Browns in a spot where they're looking to build a young core, and Jared Verse is going to be a franchise cornerstone, you'd hope, on the Cleveland side, on the defensive side of the ball. for years to come.
Yeah, I mean, I love this trade for both sides. Like you said, they get a lot of draft capital for the Browns, that is.
Hmm.
And they are a team that has kind of blown a lot of trades. So when they had the opportunity to actually trade a good player and make a good deal, I was actually excited for them because they need something to go right in their organization. And I think that getting a young guy in verse will really help them be well versed on the defensive end, if you know what I mean. And I think that they, have the draft picks to kind of fill some roster holes. So I think
Hmm.
that's kind of well done there for a guy who's 30 years old. We forget that Brown and Garrett are both getting to the point where they're at the middle point of their careers. They've
Hmm.
established themselves, but they have a couple years before they start to really, whoop, decline. So it's kind of one of those things for me where it's like you get the most value for them while you can, and
Yeah.
they did that. And what I'm really impressed with, kind of the Rams side of things, is how they are willing to mortgage the future for now, like how they won the Super Bowl and got Matt Stafford, uh, and won the Super Bowl that year, and then and that now with Myles Garrett, they're doing the same thing, and I love that. Like go all in for a championship. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm gonna see if I found a breakdown of Rams picks on social media a couple days ago. Let's see if I can. There we go. This is this is exactly what I was looking for. Let me see if I can pull this up.
Yeah, and I mean to kind of fill a couple of seconds here. McVay's a very good coach, and I think that ownership group. Again, I'm pointing to ownership and successful ownership groups. You know what the message is. The message
There
is
we go.
we go for it.
Okay.
So
Just very quickly, this is a breakdown of Rams first round picks since 2016, which again, you were just saying they've been able to kind of get to the point where they don't feel like they need to um they want to help the team now and they don't feel the necessary need to build for the future, and I think this is kind of a decent breakdown of it. In 2016 they drafted Jared Goff in the first round, who you just mentioned was eventually traded in the Matt Stafford deal. No first round picks from 2017 to 2023. And then they drafted Jared Verse in 24, who was traded in the Garrett deal. No first round picks in 25. And Ty Simpson, who they will have behind Matt Stafford, was their first round pick in 2026. So, like you said, they got the Super Bowl over the Bengals with Matt Stafford, and they're looking to compete for Super Bowls in the very near future as well.
I honestly think it's gonna be Patriots and Rams. Um, Kind of like Brady's first Super Bowl, if you will.
Yeah,
Uh,
it would be the third time that they would meet in the Super Bowl if it were to happen. So it'd be
it'd
real.
be kind of cool, but I also think it is very possible. I think both teams have been solid, last year and then this year on paper they both look good. So if they stay healthy enough, I don't see why that couldn't happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And now let's wrap up with some of the other early moves for the NFL offseason or so far. Um, Kyler, I'll let you kind of lead this discussion as you wanted to talk a little bit about the New York Giants receiver room after their two most recent uh, free agent moves.
They actually made a third the next day, and they brought in JuJu Smith-Schuster as well. They brought in JuJu, Odell, and Braxton Berrios. And I don't think Berrios stays for more than a couple weeks in camp. They have 15 guys for receivers. Like, do you ever really need 15 receivers? Like, okay, I could see 10 or like 8, like in case people get hurt and whatnot. And obviously, Malik Neighbors is coming back. from an injury that, he may not be back in time for the season. Sure, you should have a couple extra guys, sure. But 15, like that's a bit much. And then the guys they brought in are guys who are older, veteran guys, like Odell Beckham. Is he playing wheelchair football or is he playing regular football? I'm not sure which league he's playing in, but you know, it, but to be in all seriousness, I think that um, it is great though that they are bringing in veterans like JuJu and Odell. I like bringing back Odell Beckham
Mm-hmm.
because because he was kind of cocky when he was in New York the first time, but he really did want to return. And honestly, helping a younger team with veteran guys who are established, like a JuJu Smith-Schuster or a Odell Beckham, uh, who have been on really good teams at times and bad teams as well, kind of gives them that experience. And I think like a guy like Harbaugh will bring in those veteran guys to kind of help things. But the part I really couldn't get over is I wasn't going to name all the guys on their depth chart because I'm like, I don't know if it's 14, if it's 17, if it's 15. We're going with 15. There's like 15 guys, like 14, 15 guys listed.
Yeah,
Wide receiver, wide
wow.
receiver. And one of them is Malik, obviously. They got Darnell Mooney, who I think is a
Mm.
good, sneaky good pickup for them. He kind of fills the need from he kind of fills the gap from 1 to like 3 or 1 to 4 and helps kind of give you that 2, if you
Yep.
will. And then they also drafted the kid. They drafted Malachi,
From
right?
Malachi Fields from Notre Dame. Yep.
A-
He is currently listed as the fourth wide receiver. So
And
direct,
Odell's the fifth right now.
directly behind um
Slayton, right?
he's behind Darius Slayton on the depth chart. So it goes Malik Neighbors, Darius Slayton, Darnell Mooney, then Calvin Austin the third from previously with Pittsburgh, Malachi Fields, Isaiah Hodgins, Odell Beckham Jr., Juju Smith-Schuster, Jalen Hyatt, and then we've got Braxton Berrios, Bo Collins, another guy from Notre Dame, and then Dalen Cambray as well. So just a very large number of
I'm
receivers
sorry to laugh. It's just like, oh my
as
god.
you yeah, that's a lot. I'm not gonna. I can't lie. And then, but I did want to mention. I think Braxton Berrios could end up finding his way on the team, especially after the injury to Gunnar Olszewski, who's been the returner for the
Oh yeah,
past couple
former Patriot too. Still,
couple of seasons. I think that Braxton Berrios could end up getting that return specialist role if that was something that he was interested in.
I wouldn't be surprised if they cut Hyatt.
You think they're ready to say that draft pick wasn't the greatest?
I am.
You are.
Uh,
You are, but do you think the Giants higher ups are?
I think Harbaugh might. Listen, we
Yeah.
got a new coach, so whoever he thinks is going to be a good mix. I think what he's doing is he's bringing a lot of these guys in to make it more of a competitive, like, kind of like motivate the younger guys
Mm-hmm.
to get better. But let's say Odell plays well or Juju plays well. I think one or both of those guys could certainly make the wide receiver room. I,
Yeah,
I don't
I
think
would.
it's out of the question. I
Yeah,
just
I think that you're right in saying that it's good to have a mixture of veteran guys to go along with the young guys because in a way your goal is to take some of the pressure off of those younger guys and they can feel comfortable going to those veterans and ask questions when they need to and figure out how they're gonna impact any team, no matter if this could be said about any team NFL wide. But with so many receivers for the Giants, they're gonna be
I
talking to
think they've
each
set the
other.
Guinness Book of World Records with how many receivers they have on a roster right now. But hey, you do you. But look, I also really like what they have too.
Hmm.
And I think I think it is clear that they're gonna go with the number one being Malik. That's the given because
Yeah, I think.
he's a top 10 receiver already without trying. Um, and
As long as he can stay healthy, I think he's the clear cut number one. I can't dispute you there.
oh, he's not disputed. I think everybody else there's arguments. I think
Hmm.
Mooney could be two. I think you could put Slayton in the slot, which I've said you should do for 5 years, and so a lot of Giants fans will be happy that maybe he gets a chance as a third or fourth receiver.
Hmm.
What if Malik isn't ready, you do need to have one or two extra guys in there for sure. But I'm not sure who I take right now. I think that you got to get rid of the guys that aren't going to make the roster, just so that you can kind of focus on 6 to 10 guys, and focus on those 6 to 10, and you can make two or three cuts.
Yeah, and I mean, those decisions will start to be made. This is the first time that John Harbaugh is going to build a Giants roster. So it's probably gonna look a little bit different than it has in the past, but it's gonna take time and reps on the field, to figure out how that's gonna all shape
Well, I
out.
can tell you Hyatt should be gone, but that's a subject line for later. Um, I don't really like the kid, the but I really do think they tried to get a couple younger pieces too. I just don't know how many of them are really going to make it. I think Malachi will, definitely, and then I also think I don't know. I feel like one of those two veteran guys are really going to make it, but I don't know
Hmm.
which ones, and I don't know who's. It's going to come down to reps. How does Odell look? How does JuJu look? Like, these guys aren't the star receivers they once were, and so
Yeah, it's gonna take time to see how those reps look and how, um, obviously Odell Beckham, he's coming off another injury, so he hasn't played full speed, for a decent chunk of time now. So it's gonna take some time, for him to get his legs back under him. But that will come with more time in training camp. And now let's move on to some postseason talk. We'll start with the Stanley Cup Finals, which got underway yesterday in what was an unbelievable back and forth game between the Western Conference champion Vegas Golden Knights and the Eastern Conference champion Carolina Hurricanes. The Vegas Golden Knights take the game one win on the road in Carolina by a final score of 5-4. As I mentioned, a very back and forth game throughout, but it was two first period goals from Nikolai Ehlers that got the, Carolina Hurricanes going, but Vegas answered back with three goals and the next four goals to take a 4-2 lead, and then Carolina got the next two to tie it up at four, and then Tomas Hertl with the game winner at 16:36 of the third period. But this, to me, Kyler, this screams a very back and forth series. Just going off this one game, I wouldn't be shocked if this goes 6 or 7 games, and I expect that a lot of these games are going to be close games.
honestly, this is what the NBA should look at and say, wow, the NHL actually has interesting games. Yeah, I know. It's not like we have to have the extender. But anyway,
Yeah.
I like to make that joke, but
We'll
I
get
mean,
we'll get into the NBA at the last part of the show, and we'll
I like to make a little bit of a joke about it because I look at this and I say, hey, this is actually a really unique opportunity for for both of these teams. They're both the hottest teams in the NHL. They like they both kind of overcame adversity and of their own kind, and not obviously not really Carolina. They've been kind of the hot team all year, but these are the teams that are playing the best right now. They might not have been like the number one team, but they were the hottest teams, and you're seeing that. So I look at it and I say Vegas is great. Hurdle with another game winning goal. Again, Dodd Sweetie should have gotten Hurdle, but he can play in a big market. But yeah, I look at this. It's not going to be an easy series. If anybody thinks it's going to be an easy series, grab your bowl of popcorn and enjoy, because it's gonna be a good one. And again, Vegas is the one team that can be down by 2 or 3 goals and come back the next period like nothing happened at all. And I just don't know how you beat that in a 7 game series.
yeah, and I mean, I think that this will be the toughest test up to this point for the Vegas Golden Knights. They didn't have, or probably I should say the toughest test. That was a misspeak by me. I meant to say the toughest test for the Carolina Hurricanes. They, as we've talked about a couple of times in past episodes, they won their first 8 games without much of a struggle. They swept the first 2 series, and then Montreal got the first one in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then they bounced back from there. But they are in a spot now where, like Kyler said, and I do agree. I think that these are probably they were the two hottest teams coming in, and they've proven that, and they've kept that momentum going, and here we are now, and I think we're headed for what could be a very strong series.
Technical difficulties, but yeah, I mean, honestly, Vegas and how far they've come, I just don't see them completely giving it up. You know, eh, but I do think it is going to be like a 6 game series or a 7 game series.
Yeah. I can pause the recording real quick. Give me one moment. Back after some brief technical difficulties here on the TitleTown Rundown, and Kyler's made a location switch, but here we are. We will finish up our quick thoughts on the opening game of the Stanley Cup Finals between the Hurricanes and Vegas Golden Knights. One thing I wanted to mention is watching this game and seeing how it played out. You can see that both of these teams are very quick strike offenses, because there were 3 quick goals to start each of the periods. Nikolai Ehlers scored 25 seconds into the first. Ivan Barbashev scored 30 seconds into the second, and a minute 21 into the third. Brett Howden scored for Vegas. So both teams can get the goals when they really need them, and obviously this was a very back and forth game, which we've said constantly, because that's really the best way to say it, is that neither team was really able to pull away. Even when both sides went up by 2 goals, the other team had an answer back for them. So,
I also think they're two of the deepest teams,
mm-hmm,
like depth wise. Like you get scoring from guys like Barbashev and Howden, but you also get goals from guys like Hurdle. In the last series, Stone. Like, kind of like how Sessikov and some of those other guys, Aho, they're not scoring, but you have a guy like Ehlers who steps up and gets two. Like,
mm-hmm.
and then a couple of other guys like Spare on defense
Jordan
scored for
Stahl, the
them.
captain in his 20th
Exactly.
season.
So it's
Yeah.
like it's very much about top to bottom, good teams, very quick teams, but they can also slow down and play defense too. I
Yeah.
mean, it depends on the type of game it is. Like that was more of like a goal scoring game. Those goalies, I feel bad for both of them. When those pucks are flying, it's like, sorry, whoever's in the net. I hope you make the save. But
Yeah.
if not, it's okay. I'll go get one.
This will be a fun series to watch, and we'll revisit it on Monday as we have a special episode set up for Thursday, which in this case will be tomorrow. So we'll have back-to-back episodes coming out here on the TitleTown Rundown. But in this final little stretch here, we'll go to the MLB and then finish it up with a little bit of an NBA Finals preview. We will talk about two series for the Boston Red Sox. They picked up a series victory over the Cleveland Guardians, continuing their success against teams in the AL Central, not named the Minnesota Twins, because for some reason the Minnesota Twins have their number this year. But they took 2 out of 3 from the Cleveland Guardians in the series this past weekend in Cleveland. Um, After losing the first one 4-3, they scored 9 runs in game 2 and game 3, outscoring the Guardians 18-5 in the final 2 games of the series. And this was a really interesting series because it Jaron Duran, who was on a roll for most of the end of May, he finished the month with 9 home runs after hitting below 200 and only having 1 home run in April. He really had a great month of May and started it off actually last night against the Orioles with a triple and then struggled from there on. But hopefully he's able to continue that stride. But into the Guardians series very quickly. Sonny Gray and Rangers Suarez were the two starters in the wins, but Giovanni Moran picked up the win in game 3 out of the bullpen. But I think, Kyler, the offense was the story in the series victory for the Red Sox, scoring nine
They woke
runs.
up. They're alive. Like
Yeah,
since May 19th, I think they've averaged like 5.5 a game or
that
something
was
like
the
that.
that was the number going into yesterday, and then they scored 2. So I'm not sure exactly where it stands, but
Okay, but it's around there, around
Since
5.
since May 19th, it was 5.5. Yep.
So it might have gone down a little bit because of yesterday's game, but we get the general gist that it's around 5.5 runs per game, and since May 19th, and the pitching all of a sudden has been like all over the place, and I think you need to put together more holistic wins, like I've said, like all the puzzle pieces need to fit together, and I don't know what it is, or like it's kind of like how one of the guys that we wanted to open started for us, Santa Domingo, San
Tyler
Diego, or whatever his
Tyler
name is.
Tyler Samaniego. He did.
Samaniego. All right.
He was part of our opener discussion, and unfortunately, that really didn't pay off. He gave up 4 runs in the 1 inning that he pitched, and it was all 4 runs that the Guardians needed because Bayo pitched the next 7 innings and shut them out from there, and they didn't have to hit in the ninth inning with being up pretty much the entire game.
But they were only down 1 run, and they had opportunities in those later innings. So I'm wondering, what about situational baseball do they not understand, Joey?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a storyline that's been throughout this entire season for the Red Sox is that they lack the big hit. They've struggled with runners in scoring position for pretty much the entire year. It was nice to see them put 9 runs uh, up in back-to-back games,
Is
but
Ortiz ready to come out of retirement? Because they need the big hit. You know, it really comes down to, like a Schwarber or a Bregman or like an Ortiz or, like Mookie Betts, even like somebody who's a star who can
Yeah,
get those big hits, and then other guys will step up. But you need that big hitter. And Contreras gives you a little bit of that, in all fairness. But I want that big star, like you pay him $30 million a year type of
and
guy.
it's interesting that you said that because I found this report on X from the past hour that is a quote from Buster Only from the Just Baseball show that he has heard in regards to the Red Sox is quote, what I've heard today is they're aggressively looking for a right-handed hitter. It might be a case where the Red Sox are willing to take on a bad contract. And again, that second part of it is very interesting to me because I think it's Craig Breslow admitting that he did not do a good job filling out the roster. At the start of the year, he would have much rather, looking back on it now, probably made a more aggressive contract offer to Bregman or looked for. Um,
He should have just put the no trade clause in against the owner's wishes, and it would have been a Red Sox.
but it's interesting to see what kind of bad contract guy that might turn out to be. Nick Castellanos today was actually recently DFA'd, also within the last hour by the San Diego Padres. Um, he is a right-handed hitter, but I don't know where he'd fit fielding wise. Unfortunately, with the way the Red Sox are constructed right
Put him at
now,
DH. Just DH him with the
they,
other five DHs they have.
I know. Well, yeah, they've had plenty of guys take over at DH, and even in Game 3 against Cleveland, Connor Wong was the DH in the first game, maybe ever, or at least in my recent memory, where all three of the Red Sox catchers were in the lineup. But it led to a 9-4 win in Game 3 against Cleveland. So I guess I can't complain too much.
I think that speaks to they don't know what to do. But my question for you, Joey, is what are your thoughts on guys like Theo Epstein and David Ortiz kind of speaking to the media lately?
I think I'm growing to continuously agree with them. I don't really feel like this analytical approach to everything is working out because the product on the field hasn't been to the standard of what the Boston Red Sox usually want to be.
Exactly. And I'll agree with you on that. I'm going to give you a quick thought on that because I'm sure you'd love to hear my thoughts. But I've been clear since day one of this show that I like a little bit of analytics in getting on base. But if you can't even do the fundamentals of baseball and win baseball games, what's the point of it? So, I look at this, and even Theo Epstein, who comes from the Moneyball era, knows that you have to have a little bit of knowledge from baseball professionals
Mm-hmm.
to win. And, like sure, he had a little bit of a different approach. And I think that hybrid approach works. But I think when you fully rely on the analytics, that's when you start to lose games. Like Dave Roberts, for example, his first couple years as manager of the Dodgers had the best team in baseball. And you know why they didn't win a World Series? Because he took his starter out after 5 innings when he was pitching well. Because the nerds said you take him out. And
Yeah.
so now he's learning to do it a little bit more by feel. And now they're winning championships. And they have the best lineup in baseball. And whatever, you can
That helps.
say whatever.
That for
I mean,
sure.
that helps, but like that certainly helps. But I also
Yeah.
think he has learned from that a little bit too to, make the human decision a little bit
Mhm.
more. And I
Yeah.
think I really do think that can cost you a championship when you fully rely on that. Like, yes, you need to get on base. Yes, that's important. And I think you can do a lot with some of the analytics. But some of it is as simple as I'm watching the game. We're not bunting. We're not sacrificing. We're trying to hit a home run or we're striking out. We could win 5 more games by putting the ball in the air and having
Yep.
the guy from third run home. So
And they did, frankly, they did that some of the best they have been doing in terms of getting the sack fly and things of that nature in the Cleveland series. And look what it turns out to be. You win the series. So I think that it's kind of undeniable that when you go back to fundamental baseball, you're more likely to get wins.
it's sad that and I don't even really watch the games that much, but like the highlights and what I listen to on the radio and stuff, all I have to do is say just listen or watch the games or listen to interviews, and you'll know exactly what the problem is. Like one of us normies could go in, normal people could go in and fix this whole thing.
Hmm.
I think we could. I think we could add a right-handed bat who, in or two, if we really wanted to, and win the World Series. I believe that. I like it's just kind of
Now,
one of those things.
will that exactly translate exactly how we think on the field? I don't know, but there's a thought process there that it could at least fill out some of the lineup issues that you've been having. But a lot of the things too that led to success in series that they are winning is that they're not relying on Contreras and Abreu. I mean, Abreu's kind of been up and down recently, but you're not relying on a certain number of guys to do all the offense for you.
Like Roman Anthony, for example, who didn't play well, got hurt.
Yeah,
Like
and
that hurts player development.
yeah, he's a really interesting example, obviously, because we haven't seen him for a while. But he came into the season with so much pressure on him to kind of lead the offense as a guy who hadn't played a full season of Major League Baseball and is only 21 years old. So I say this in saying that when you can get offense from the auxiliary guys like Isaiah Kiner Falefa, Caleb Durbin, who had strong series against Cleveland. Caleb Durbin actually has an extra base hit in his last 5 games, so his offense is been on a better streak as of late, and he's been lockdown defense at third base when he's been in there as well. So that's been good to see. And Connor Falefa probably had his best stretch of the year in the Cleveland series, and a little bit before that as well. And he talked about um, at the conclusion of the game yesterday in a post game interview, he talked about some of the distractions that they are getting at home, and I think that even might be some of the analytical department kind of talking their ear off and getting in their head about how they want to approach certain things. Because they're now an above 500 team on the road and have a 9-20 record at home. They are the only team in Major League Baseball without double digit wins at their home field. So there's clearly something going on outside of just the baseball that's affecting their play at Fenway Park.
And they used to target guys who were good for Fenway, and I think Contreras does fit that. But I'm wondering if the analytical part of that is kind of playing a factor in it. And I think when you see a lot of other people like David Ortiz and Theo Epstein, guys who won championships in Boston, when
Mm,
you're seeing them hit the panic button and say, listen, we need to approach it differently. And I've had conversations with ownership, and we're finally acknowledging that the way we approached this wasn't the right approach.
yeah.
Now, what are we
Uh,
going to do to fix it? That's my question.
and maybe that does end up being taking on a bad contract, like Buster Only said on the Just
Who
Baseball
do you think
show.
that is, Joey? Who do you think that is?
I really have to do some research and diving in on who that might be, but maybe we'll have a discussion on that on Monday if we don't get some news before then. But I think that Craig Breslow, in that part of the quote where they're willing to take on a bad contract, it's his best version of taking accountability for realizing that things have gone wrong um, in the roster construction, and he wants to make it better because he doesn't want to miss the playoffs.
Yeah, well, no, I think it's his job's on the line. Let's
That
be
too.
honest.
That
And
too.
then, you know, it's kind of like, oh, I really made a mistake by not bringing Bregman back, and now my job's on the line.
Yeah, that's a very fair point as well. And now very quickly, before we wrap up, we wanted to preview the NBA Finals, which is a series that I'm very interested in. A rematch of the 1999 NBA Finals between the San Antonio Spurs and the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks got the sweep of the Cleveland Cavaliers, which we talked about as it was happening. So they've had a little bit of a break. And what an unbelievable Western Conference Finals it was that ended in a 111-103 Game 7 win for the San Antonio Spurs. And immediately you could see the emotion pour out of Victor Wembanyama, and I'm very excited to see what kind of level he and Jalen Brunson take it to for their sides in this NBA Finals.
Yeah, I mean, me too. Although I'll be watching the highlights because that's also on ABC.
Yeah,
Uh,
I was
anyway,
that.
besides
Yeah,
that, besides that conversation that I'll
mhm,
probably have another
yeah,
rant on, um,
yeah,
I believe that this is actually going to be
mhm,
good, a good series. Now, the reason why I made the remark that I did in the NHL segment is I believe that the conference, that the conference kind of finals were not as competitive in the NBA as they were in the NHL, even though those were kind of sweeps,
mhm,
or 5 game or whatever. One of them was a sweep, and the other was a 5 gamer. But they
yeah,
were at least close games. They were fun to watch. With the Colorado Avalanche games, it was 1 or 2 goal games, and it could have gone either way, and it just happened to go Vegas's way. And that's kind of the same thing with Carolina, and I think when it comes to the NBA, I am really interested to see how these two teams match up, line up or match up or whatever you want to call it, because
yep,
this is like the future of the NBA in the Spurs. I'm telling you, Castle, Wembenyama, Fox, a couple of other young kids in there. There's young
yeah,
guys in there who just really play well together.
mhm,
And then you
yeah,
have kind of the veteran guys like Brunson and Cat and OG Ananobi and like bunch of like random guys, but they work really well together. So I'm kind of interested to see how that kind of plays out. But I
yeah.
I do like San Antonio because they have the best player in Wembanyama.
I think that it's going to be really interesting to see how the Knicks try to match up with Wembanyama. According to a report from Shams Charania of ESPN earlier today, it does seem like Mitchell Robinson is practicing today and should be available for game one tonight. So
I'm
that
sorry, is
is
his finger broken and he can't play? Like, oh yeah, his finger is broken, but whatever,
yes.
like in hockey, they would be playing. They wouldn't
Yeah,
even
but
be telling you that it happened. They'd
he
be
did
duct
have
taping it together.
he had the surgery in time to be ready to go. But I think that's interesting, especially in how they can now send Cat and Robinson at different times. And I think they're gonna send a bunch of different types of defense at Wembanyama, to force him to not be comfortable for most of the games and see if they can get him that way. And then offensively, they're gonna want to keep Wembanyama out of the paint so that Brunson can drive. And then if the drive's not there, he's going to be looking to kick to guys like Bridges and Ananobi, as you said. And then the defensive switches to me are also going to be really interesting to see how well or not well, depending on how it goes, Towns and Robinson are able to do on the inside against Wembanyama.
So, what do you do defensively if you're San Antonio against a guy like Brunson, for example?
I mean, I think that you have to get up on him. I don't think you want to give him that much space to work with, and then you have to figure out how you're gonna work the screens that are bound to come because obviously when Binyama is gonna tower over Brunson in the post, but they're gonna want to open up those lanes for Brunson to get to the hoop because he's gonna try to get to the hoop and get to the line when he if he doesn't make those layups down low, he's going to be looking to get fouled and get to the line and get his points that way. And then if Brunson is shut down offensively, who's going to be the guy to step up for the Knicks? Is it going to be Towns? Is it going to be Bridges? Or Anunoby has the firepower to get hot and score a lot of points as well for them. And the same could be said on the San Antonio side. If they're doing well on Wembenyama, are you gonna see guys like Stephon Castle, De'Aaron Fox, Julian Champagnie even had some good games in the Oklahoma City series. So similar to how we talked about in the Western Conference Finals with SGA, uh, if the Stars aren't having a great night, or if the Stars aren't having great nights, who's going to step up for them? And it should be an absolutely entertaining series to keep an eye on throughout. And I expect it to be competitive and similar to the NHL, could be anywhere from 6 to 7 games. So
It's
should
actually
be.
fun to have good series for once,
I
Joe.
know. That it very much so is. But that's going to do it for us here this afternoon on the TitleTown Rundown. We will be back. Um, as of now, the plan is to be back tomorrow for a year in review of Merrimack Athletics with our good friend Jack Lawhorn of the Jacked Up podcast. We will be back tomorrow with that. Thank you for watching.